I turned 30 in a silent house, eating cold lo mein while my family ignored my existence. 3 days later, they demanded I host Thanksgiving for 20 people. I didn't argue. I simply texted, sold, signed the closing papers, and vanished before they realized their free venue was gone. Before we begin today's story, we have an urgent announcement. Due to technical issues, this channel is shutting down. But don't worry, the stories continue. Please subscribe to our new channel, Daily Drip Stories. You can find the link in the video description, the pinned comment, and the collaboration tag on this video. Make sure to switch over now so you don't miss out. Thank you for your support. Now back to the story. The silence in my kitchen wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. It was the kind of silence that had mass and weight, pressing down on my shoulders like a physical burden. I sat at my quartz island, the one I had paid extra for because my mother, Bella, had insisted that standard granite is for rentals, and stared at a white cardboard takeout box. Inside were the congealed remains of yesterday's lo mein. I hadn't even bothered to heat it up. It was 8:43 p.m. on a Tuesday. It was also my 30th birthday. I looked at my phone, lying face up on the counter. The screen was black. It wasn't dead. The battery was at 92%. It was just inactive. I reached out and tapped the screen just to make sure the ringer hadn't accidentally been switched off. It hadn't. The notifications were empty. No missed calls. No texts. No happy birthday gift from the family group chat. No tag on Facebook. Just a notification from my bank app telling me my mortgage payment had cleared. "Happy birthday to me," I whispered, the words sounding pathetic in the large, empty room. I took a bite of the cold noodles. They were rubbery, coated in a sauce that had turned into a gelatinous glaze. I chewed slowly, forcing myself to swallow past the lump forming in my throat. 30 is supposed to be a milestone. It's the age where you ostensibly become a real adult. For weeks, I had listened to my sister, Camilla, talk about her friend's 30th birthday bash in Cabo. I had listened to my mother, Bella, talk about how hard she had labored when she gave birth to me 30 years ago, usually prefacing it with, "You were such a difficult baby, Alexa. You never slept." I had foolishly allowed myself to hope. I hadn't expected Cabo. I hadn't even expected a party. But I had expected acknowledgement. Maybe a dinner, a card, a phone call. I unlocked my phone again and scrolled to the family group chat, titled Fam Bam Sparkling Heart. The last message was from 3 days ago. It was from my father, Henry. "Does anyone know how to reset the Netflix password?" Below that, a reply from me 5 minutes later. "I reset it for you, Dad. It's the same as the Wi-Fi." Below that, a thumbs-up emoji from Camilla. That was it. I scrolled up further, looking at the history of our digital interactions. It was a long, vertical timeline of requests. "Alexa, can you pick up the cake for the baby shower?" "Alexa, do you have that extra air mattress for when the cousins visit?" "Alexa, can you look at my resume again?" "Alexa, Mom needs a ride to the airport at 4 a.m. Are you free?" My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to type it. I wanted to scream it in all caps, "It is my birthday. I am 30 years old today." But I didn't. I knew exactly what would happen if I did. Bella would text back, "Oh my God, I thought it was tomorrow. I've been so swamped with Camilla's drama, you know how she gets." Henry would say, "Happy B-Day, kiddo." Camilla would send a gif of a cat wearing a party hat and then immediately pivot back to whatever crisis she was currently experiencing with her on-again, off-again boyfriend. It would be performative, it would be forced, and it would make me feel smaller than I already did. I put the fork down. I wasn't hungry. I looked around the house. My house. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, a massive open-concept living area, and a landscaped backyard. I had bought it 3 years ago, busting my back as a supply chain manager, working 60-hour weeks, saving every penny while my peers were traveling Europe. I had bought it because my family said we needed a hub. Bella had cried when I got the keys, saying, "Finally, a place big enough for Christmas." I had bought it for them. And now, on the day that marked 3 decades of my life, I was the only person in it. The betrayal wasn't a sharp knife in the back. It was a slow-acting poison I had been drinking for years, and tonight, the toxicity finally hit critical mass. The silence of the house wasn't just quiet anymore, it was clarity. The betrayal was worse than the loneliness. It was the realization that to them, I wasn't a daughter or a sister. I was a utility. I was an appliance. You don't wish your toaster a happy birthday. You just expect it to work when you push the lever down. I stood up, elk head to the trash can, and dumped the rest of the noodles. The thud of the food hitting the plastic liner was the only sound in the room. Okay, I said aloud. Okay. I turned off the kitchen lights and went upstairs to bed, leaving the phone downstairs. The next 3 days passed in a blur of gray routine. I went to work. I managed logistics for international shipping lanes. I solved problems. I put out fires. I was good at my job because my job required the exact skill set my family had exploited for years: anticipating needs, managing resources, and fixing disasters before they happened. I didn't call them, they didn't call me. My birthday came and went, unremarked upon, unremembered. By Friday afternoon, the initial sharp sting of tears had dried up, replaced by a cold, hard knot in my chest. I was sitting at my desk, reviewing a bill of lading for a shipment from Shanghai, when my phone buzzed. Then it buzzed again, and again. A rapid-fire triplet of vibrations. I looked down. Fam Bam's sparkling heart was active. I picked up the phone, a cynical smirk pulling at the corner of my mouth. Now they remember, I thought. Now that they need something. I opened the chat. Camilla, 1:14 p.m. Okay, so Mom and I were talking over brunch. Camilla, 1:14 p.m. We realized Thanksgiving is only 3 weeks away. Turkey Camilla, 1:15 p.m. We took a vote and decided we're doing it at Alexa's again. It just makes the most sense since she has the space and the big oven. I stared at the screen. We took a vote. Who was we? Clearly, the voter registration drive hadn't made it to my house. Bella, 1:16 p.m. Yes, I invited Aunt Joy and the cousins, so we're looking at about 22 people. Alexa, honey, make sure you order that organic turkey from the farm you used last year. The frozen one was too dry 2 years ago. Henry, 1:17 p.m. Sounds good. I'll bring the wine. I set the phone down on my desk, my hand trembling slightly. It wasn't just the audacity of volunteering my house. It was the specificity of the demands. Order the organic turkey. 22 people. That meant 3 days of deep cleaning before they arrived. It meant spending $600 on groceries. It meant waking up at 4:00 a.m. to start the bird. It meant playing bartender, waitress, and maid, while Camilla sat on my couch criticizing my throw pillows and Bella followed me around the kitchen, supervising with a glass of Chardonnay in her hand. And it meant doing all of this for people who hadn't even sent a text message 3 days ago. I typed out a response, my fingers hitting the keys hard. Did you guys forget what day Tuesday was? I stared at it. Then I backspaced. Delete, delete, delete. Why ask? I already knew the answer. Asking would just give them a chance to gaslight me. Oh, don't be so sensitive, Alexa. We were going to celebrate your birthday at Thanksgiving, obviously. I didn't want their excuses. I didn't want their belated, guilt-induced cake. I looked at the message again. We voted, you're hosting. A strange sensation washed over me. It wasn't anger anymore. It was something colder. It was the feeling of a supply chain manager realizing a vendor is unreliable and deciding to cut the contract. I minimized the group chat and opened my contacts. I scrolled past Mom and Dad. I scrolled past Camilla. I stopped at a name I hadn't spoken to in 2 years, not since I bought the place. Mark, Realtor. I pressed call. He answered on the second ring. Alexa, hey, long time no see, everything okay with the house? Hi, Mark, I said, my voice steady, devoid of any emotion. The house is fine. It's perfect, actually. Market value has gone up since I bought it, right? Oh, absolutely, Mark said, his tone perking up. Inventory is incredibly low right now. Why? You looking to refinance? No, I said. I want to sell, and I want to do it fast. I don't want open houses. I don't want a sign in the yard. I want a cash buyer, and I want to close immediately. Mark paused. Okay, that's a shift. Everything all right? Everything is fine, I lied. I just realized I have too much inventory and not enough ROI. Can you make it happen? If you're serious, Mark said, his voice dropping into professional mode. I have a list of investors who would buy a turnkey property in your neighborhood sight unseen. We could probably have an offer by Monday. Do it, I said. Send me the paperwork. I hung up. I went back to the group chat. Bella had added, also, Camilla is bringing her new boyfriend, so we need to make sure there's a vegan option for him. I typed my reply, one word. Me, sold. Camilla, sold, what does that mean? Like sold on the idea? Lol. Camilla, great. I'll send you the Pinterest board for the table decor I want. I put the phone face down and turned my attention back to the Shanghai bill of lading. They thought sold was slang. They thought it was agreement. They thought I was their reliable, unshakable doormat. But they forgotten one crucial thing about me. I don't make idle threats. I execute transactions. And I had just initiated the biggest liquidation of my life. To understand why I didn't hesitate, you have to understand the dynamic of the fam bam. I wasn't just the middle child, I was the engine room. My parents, Bella and Henry, were charming people. Bella was a retired nurse who had spent her career caring for everyone else, or so she claimed. In reality, she thrived on the appearance of caring. She loved the drama of the hospital, the stories, the sympathy. At home, she was too exhausted to cook or clean, a habit she carried well into retirement. Henry was a car salesman. Not the sleazy kind in a plaid suit, but the loud, backslapping kind who believed that family loyalty meant you bought a car from his lot at full sticker price to support his numbers. He was a man of big gestures and zero follow-through. And then there was Camilla. Camilla was 34. She was beautiful in a carefully curated Instagram filter kind of way. She had tried college 3 times. She had tried real estate. She had tried starting a jewelry line. Currently, she called herself a lifestyle consultant, which, as far as I could tell, meant she went to brunch and critiqued the mimosa presentation. When we were kids, if Camilla broke a vase, it was an accident. If I broke a vase, I was clumsy. If Camilla needed a car, my parents figured it out. When I needed a car for college, I was told, it builds character to work for what you want. And I did work. I worked hard. I got a scholarship. I got a degree in logistics. I got a job at a Fortune 500 company. I built a life of stability because I was terrified of becoming them. People who drifted on whims and expected the world to catch them. But my stability became their safety net. When Camilla couldn't make rent, Alexa, can you spot her? She's good for it. She wasn't. When Dad's commission check was light, Alexa, can you cover the cell phone bill this month? When Mom wanted to redo the patio, Alexa, you have that truck, right? I did it all. I did it because I wanted to be good. I wanted to be worthy of the love they poured so effortlessly onto Camilla. But the Tuesday silence had broken something in me. It snapped the wire that connected my self-worth to their approval. That evening, after the sold text, my phone rang. It was Camilla. I stared at her name on the screen. I debated not answering, but I needed to gauge the enemy. I needed to see if they had any clue. Hello. Hey, Camilla's voice was high-pitched, breathless. Okay, so for the table setting, I was thinking we do a harvest chic theme. Gold chargers, white pumpkins. You can get the chargers at Pier 1, they're on sale. No hello, how are you? No happy belated birthday. Just an assignment. I'm at work, Camilla, I said, though I was sitting on my couch. You're always working, she sighed. Anyway, Mom said she wants to do the turkey in the deep fryer this year, but Dad is afraid of it, so you'll have to be the one to watch it. I don't want oil splattering on my outfit. Right, I said, the fryer. And listen, her voice dropped, becoming conspiratorial. This new guy, Chad, he's really wealthy. Like crypto wealthy. So I need the house to look perfect. Can you maybe hire a cleaner to come in before Thursday? The last time we were there, the baseboards in the guest bath were kind of dusty. I gripped the phone tight. She was talking about my house. The house I paid the mortgage on. The house I cleaned myself on weekends because I worked 60 hours a week. Dusty, I repeated flatly. Yeah, just, do a deep clean. We want to make a good impression. If this works out with Chad, I might finally be able to get that G-Wagon. There it was, the naked transaction. My home was just a stage set for her to land a man who could fund her next lifestyle upgrade. I'll keep that in mind, I said. Great. Oh, and can you move your car out of the garage? Chad has a vintage Porsche, and he doesn't want to park it on the street. I almost laughed. It was hysterical. It was grotesque. Sure, Camilla, I said, my voice dangerously calm. I'll make sure there's plenty of space. You're the best. Love you, bye. She hung up. I lowered the phone. She wanted space. I would give her space. I would give her the most empty, vacant space she had ever seen. My email pinged. It was Mark, the realtor. Subject: cash offer 123 Oak Street attachment, purchase agreement, PDF. Alexa, you aren't going to believe this. One of my investors wants it. They're offering $20K over asking if you can close in 14 days and vacate immediately. They want to start renovations on December 1st. I opened the PDF. I scrolled to the price. It was a number that would wipe out my remaining mortgage and leave me with a check for nearly $200,000. Thanksgiving was in 20 days. The closing would be in 14. I looked around my living room. I looked at the dusty baseboards. I didn't even read the fine print. I opened the digital signature tool. Click, click, signed. Happy Thanksgiving, Camilla, I whispered. The morning after I signed the digital purchase agreement, I didn't wake up feeling panicked. I woke up feeling light. For the first time in years, the crushing weight of expectation had lifted, replaced by the cool, mechanical hum of logistics. I treated my departure like a supply chain crisis. The objective: vacate the premises and liquidate assets with zero disruption to the hostels, my family, until the point of no return. I called a moving company that specialized in high-end, discreet relocations. I told them I needed a white-glove service, pack, load, and move in a single day. The date was set for the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. The closing was Wednesday morning. Thanksgiving was Thursday. The timing was tight, a razor-thin margin of error that would have made my boss nervous, but I thrived in the margins. While I plotted my exit, the family demands escalated from a trickle to a flood. Bella group chat: Alexa, Aunt Joy is gluten-free now. You need to make a separate stuffing. And don't just buy the boxed kind, it tastes like sawdust. Make it from scratch using almond flour. Camilla, also, Chad is really into mixology. Can you stock the bar? We need top-shelf bourbon, bitters, the fancy kind with the dropper, and those big clear ice cubes. Do you have the mold for the ice? If not, order it on Prime like now. Henry, hey kiddo, is the guest room TV working? I want to watch the game while the girls are cooking. Maybe upgrade it to a 4K if you see a deal. I read these messages like an anthropologist studying a primitive, greedy culture. The girls are cooking. He meant me. He meant I would be cooking while Camilla supervised and Mom tasted. I didn't argue. I didn't push back. I replied with simple, non-committal affirmatives. Me noted, me on the list, me got it. They interpreted my brevity as obedience. I knew it was the silence of a soldier loading a weapon. I began to investigate my next move. I didn't just want to leave, I wanted to vanish. I spent my lunch breaks looking for apartments in Chicago, a city 3 hours away. It was close enough to visit friends, but far enough that Bella wouldn't drop by because she was bored. I found a sleek, modern loft in the loop. It was smaller than my house, but it had a 24-hour doorman and, most importantly, a strict guest policy. I signed the lease electronically on Thursday. Then I started the purge. I couldn't have boxes lying around or they would get suspicious. So I started packing the things they wouldn't notice. The winter coats in the back of the closet, the books on the high shelves, the good china they only saw once a year. I moved these boxes into the attic, stacking them silently at night. It was during this process, while digging through an old filing cabinet for my birth certificate, that I found the leverage. It was a folder labeled Camilla Loan. 3 years ago, right after I bought the house, Camilla had come to me crying. She had maxed out a credit card trying to launch her jewelry line, which consisted of buying Alibaba necklaces and repackaging them. She needed $5,000 or the bank would sue her. I had given it to her, but being me, I had made her sign a promissory note. A simple document stating she would pay me back in installments. She had paid exactly $0. I held the paper in my hand. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was proof of the pattern. It was the physical documentation that I was the bank, the safety net, and the doormat. I took a picture of the document and saved it to my cloud drive. Then I slipped the original into my go bag. "You want a harvest chic Thanksgiving?" I whispered to the empty room. "I'm going to give you a harvest you'll never forget." The first crack in their oblivion happened 6 days before the move. I was in the kitchen, packing my high-end cookware. I was wrapping my Le Creuset Dutch oven in bubble wrap when the front door unlocked. My stomach dropped. I had forgotten that Bella had a spare key. In case of emergencies, she had insisted when I bought the place. "Alexa, yoo-hoo," Bella's voice echoed from the foyer. I froze. I had boxes on the counter, bubble wrap on the floor. The walls were bare where my artwork usually hung. I scrambled, throwing a tea towel over the box on the island, but it was too late. Bella walked in, carrying a fabric swatch and looking like she owned the place. She stopped dead. She looked at the bare walls. She looked at the bubble wrap. "What on earth is going on here?" she asked, her eyebrows shooting up toward her hairline. "I'm cleaning," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Deep cleaning, like Camilla wanted. I took the art down to wash the walls." Bella narrowed H. Her eyes, she walked over to the island and lifted the tea towel. She saw the Dutch oven, swaddled in plastic. "You're packing the pots," she asked. "Alexa, how are you going to cook the turkey if you pack the roasting pan?" "I'm just organizing, Mom," I said, moving between her and the box. "I was reorganizing the cabinets to make room for all the special ingredients you guys ordered." Bella stared at me. For a second, I thought she figured it out. I thought she would ask, "Are you moving?" But that would require her to pay attention to my life. Instead, she scoffed. "Well, don't organize it too well. I don't want to be hunting for the gravy boat on Thursday. Speaking of which, that's why I'm here. I need you to write a check for the florist." "The florist?" I asked. "Yes," Bella said, pulling up a photo on her phone. "Camilla wants this specific centerpiece. It's autumn hydrangeas and imported eucalyptus. It's $400. She held out her hand, palm up, expectant. Something in me snapped. Not a loud snap, but a quiet, decisive click. "No," I said. Bella's hand stayed in the air. "Excuse me." I said no. "I'm not paying $400 for flowers, Mom. I'm already buying the organic turkey, the expensive bourbon, and the gluten-free flour. I'm not paying for Camilla's decor." Bella's face went red. She lowered her hand slowly. "Alexa, don't be difficult. You know how important this is to your sister. She's bringing Chad. If the table looks cheap, it reflects badly on all of us." "It reflects badly on her," I corrected. "If she wants the flowers, she can pay for them." "She doesn't have the liquidity right now," Bella snapped. "You know she's between projects. You have a good job, you have this big house. Why are you being so stingy?" "Stingy?" I laughed, a harsh, dry sound. Mom, I asked you guys to come to dinner for my birthday. You didn't even call. And now you're standing in my kitchen, demanding $400 for eucalyptus. Bella rolled her eyes. Oh my God, is this still about the birthday? Alexa, you are 30 years old. Grow up. We're doing a big family thing on Thursday. That's your celebration. Stop making everything about you. She poked a finger at my chest. Write the check, or transfer it to me. I don't care how you do it, just get it done. I'm not going to let you ruin this for your sister. She turned and marched out of the kitchen. And put those pots back. The kitchen looks like a warehouse. The front door slammed. I stood there shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline. You're right, Mom, I said to the empty air. It does look like a warehouse. I pulled my phone out. I opened the banking app. I didn't transfer the money for the flowers. Instead, I transferred the entirety of my savings account into a new, external high-yield savings account at a bank my parents had never heard of. I unlinked my checking account from the Family Emergency Venmo group. Then I texted the movers. Can we move the start time up to 6:00 a.m. on Tuesday? I want to be gone before sunrise. Monday, 3 days before Thanksgiving. The house was a shell. I had been living out of a suitcase for 2 days, sleeping on a mattress I hadn't packed yet. I was at work, finalizing the last of my handover notes for my team. I had requested a transfer to the Chicago branch months ago, pending approval, which had conveniently come through the day after my birthday, when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from my smart home security system. Motion detected. Living room. I frowned. Bella had a key, but she usually texted before barging in to demand money. I opened the app and pulled up the live camera feed. My blood ran cold. It was Camilla, and a man I didn't recognize, Chad, presumably. They were standing in the middle of my living room. It's a little sparse right now, Camilla was saying, sweeping her hand around the room. She was wearing a white dress that looked suspiciously like a bridal options. But that's because we're planning to renovate. I want to knock down that wall and open up the kitchen even more. Chad, a guy in a tailored vest and loafers who looked like he sold NFTs for a living, nodded appreciatively. Nice bones, babe. I like the high ceilings, so it's fully in your name. I leaned closer to my phone screen. Oh, totally, Camilla lied, her voice smooth as silk. My parents bought it for me as an investment a few years ago, but I let my sister stay here to keep an eye on things. She's kind of a project. She needed a place to land. I gasped. The audacity wasn't just breathtaking, it was suffocating. She wasn't just using my house for a party. She was claiming ownership. She was telling this man that I was the charity case. That's sweet of you, Chad said, wrapping an arm around her. You're too generous, Cammy. I know, she sighed, but family is family. Anyway, after Thanksgiving, I'm going to ask her to move out so E can start the remodel. I think she's ready to stand on her own 2 feet. I hit the record button on the app. I needed this. I needed this to be documented. This was the investigation revealing the rot at the core. They didn't just see me as a utility. They saw me as an obstacle to their own narrative. Camilla was literally selling my home to her boyfriend as her own asset. I watched as they walked into the kitchen. Where's the wine fridge? Chad asked. Oh, it's getting serviced, Camilla improvised. I switched off the feed. I had seen enough. I could have driven home. I could have stormed in and thrown them out. I could have screamed that the deed was in my name, the mortgage was paid by my sweat, and that she was a liar. But that would have given them a chance to spin it. Camilla would have cried. She would have told Chad I was the crazy, jealous sister she had mentioned. Bella would have swooped in to mediate, forcing me to apologize for embarrassing Camilla. No, I needed undeniable, legal, irreversible proof. I checked my email. Title company, clear to close. The wire transfer from the buyer has been received in escrow. Closing is confirmed for Wednesday at 10:00 a.m. I looked at the group chat. Camilla, hey Alexa, just stopped by to drop off some napkins. House looks a little empty. Hope you're bringing the furniture back from the cleaners or whatever lol. Make sure the guest room is ready for Chad and me on Thursday night. I typed my reply carefully. I needed to keep the ruse alive for 48 more hours. Me, don't worry. By Thursday, everything will be exactly where it needs to be. It wasn't a lie. That night, I went home. The house smelled like Camilla's perfume. I walked through the rooms she had claimed as hers. I sat on the floor of the living room and opened my laptop. I drafted a document. It wasn't a legal document, it was an invoice. Itemized bill for Thanksgiving services. Venue rental, $5,000 catering labor, $2,500 emotional damages. Priceless. I didn't send it, I just looked at it. Then I opened the Fam Bam chat one last time. Henry, Alexa, make sure the driveway is power washed. Chad's car is low to the ground. I didn't reply. I went to the kitchen and taped a single envelope to the refrigerator. Inside was the spare key Bella had used, and the garage door opener Camilla had borrowed 6 months ago and left on the counter today. On the front of the envelope, I wrote, "For the new owners." The trap was set, the bait was taken, and the hunter was about to leave the forest before the bear even knew it was caught. Thanksgiving Day, 11:00 a.m. I wasn't in the kitchen sweating over a 20-pound turkey. I wasn't whisking gravy while my mother criticized the consistency. I wasn't listening to Camilla explain to her new boyfriend how she designed the living room. I was 300 miles away, in my new loft in Chicago. The floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the city, gray and steel under the November sky. I was wearing cashmere lounge pants and sipping a mimosa. But I had a front row seat to the show. Before I left, I hadn't just emptied the house. I had left the smart home system active, connected to the Wi-Fi which I had paid for through the end of the month. I had a live feed of the front porch, the driveway, and the living room through the internal camera I'd left on the counter, pointed at the door. I cast the feed to my 65-inch TV. It began like a parade of the entitled. First, my father's truck pulled into the driveway. Henry hopped out, carrying a case of wine, wearing his grill master apron, even though he never grilled. Then came Bella's sedan. And finally, the star of the show, a sleek, rented Mercedes convertible. Camilla got out. She was wearing a cream-colored knit dress that probably cost more than my first car, and heels that were entirely impractical for a family dinner. Chad got out from the driver's side, looking around with a possessive nod. I watched them walk up the path. "I'm telling you, Chad," Camilla's voice came through the doorbell audio, crisp and clear. "The landscaping needs work, but the bones are amazing. I'm thinking we put a fire pit right there." "Nice," Chad said, "very nice." They reached the front door. Camilla reached for the handle. She didn't use a key, she just expected it to be unlocked. It wasn't. She frowned, she tried the handle again, then she punched the code into the smart lock. Beeps, beeps, beep, error. I had changed the code on Tuesday morning to 0000. "That's weird," Camilla muttered. "Alexa must have changed it." She rang the doorbell. Ding dong. I sat on my sofa in Chicago, watching them wait. Bella walked up, holding a casserole dish covered in foil. "Why aren't we going in? It's freezing out here." "Alexa isn't answering," Camilla said, pressing the button again. "Alexa, open up, we have the wine." Nothing happened. The house stood silent, drapes drawn tight. "Maybe It's in the backyard with the fryer," Henry suggested. He walked around the side of the house. A moment later, he came back, looking confused. "The gate is padlocked, and the backyard looks empty. The patio furniture is gone." "Gone?" Bella asked. "What do you mean gone?" "I mean gone. The grill, the table, the chairs. It's just concrete." Camilla let out an exaggerated sigh. "Oh my God, did she get robbed? Or maybe she put everything in storage for the remodel like I asked?" She turned to Chad with a nervous laugh. She takes my design advice very seriously. Call her, Chad said, checking his watch. I'm starving. Camilla pulled out her phone. On my coffee table in Chicago, my phone buzzed. Incoming video call, Camilla. I took a sip of my mimosa. I smoothed my hair. I picked up the phone and accepted the call. Finally, Camilla shouted before my face even fully rendered on her screen. Alexa, where are you? We're locked out. And why is the patio empty? Chad is freezing. I held the phone up so they could see me. I wasn't in an apron. I wasn't covered in flour. I was sitting in a sun-drenched, modern loft with a view of the Willis Tower behind me. Hi, Camilla, I said. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Where are you? Bella shrieked, crowding into the frame. Is that a hotel? No, I said calmly. This is my apartment, in Chicago. Silence descended on the porch. It was absolute. Chicago, Camilla repeated, the word tasting like ash in her mouth. But Thanksgiving, the turkey, the party. 20 people are coming, Alexa. Aunt Joy is 10 minutes away. I know, I said. I hope Aunt Joy likes Denny S. What are you talking about? Henry bellowed. Open the damn door, Alexa. This isn't funny. I can't open the door, Dad, I said. I don't have the keys anymore. I left them on the counter for the new owners. Camilla went pale. The new owners. Yes, I said, leaning back comfortably. You got my text on Tuesday. I told you clearly. I said sold. I thought you meant sold on the idea. Camilla screamed, her voice cracking. I thought you were agreeing to host. Why would I agree to host? I asked, my voice sharpening, cutting through the static. You didn't call me on my birthday. You ignored me for 3 days. And then you demanded I spend $1,000 and 3 days of labor to host a party for you. Why would I do that? Because we're family, Bella yelled. Because that's what you do, you help your sister. No, I said. That's what you do, you use me to help my sister. But that's over. The house is sold, Camilla. The closing was yesterday. The money is in my bank account. The new owners are a delightful investment firm who plan to gut the place on Monday. You're standing on private property. You're trespassing. I saw Chad step into the frame. His face was a mask of confusion and dawning horror. Wait, Chad said, looking from the phone to Camilla. Camilla, you said this was your house. You said your parents bought it for you as an investment. I smiled. It was a cold, sharp smile. Did she? She said you were just staying here, Chad continued, his voice dropping. She said you were the charity case. Camilla, I said, addressing her directly. Would you like to tell Chad whose name was on the deed, whose credit score secured the mortgage, who paid every single bill for 3 years? Camilla was stammering, her face flushing a deep, blotchy red. It's complicated. Family assets are. It's not complicated, I said. I owned it, I sold it, and now I'm gone. You selfish little brat, Bella screamed at the phone. How could you do this to us? Where are we supposed to go? I have a 20-pound turkey in the trunk. I don't care, I said, and for the first time in my life, I meant it. Go to a hotel, go to a restaurant, go to hell. It's not my problem anymore. I'm not your supply chain manager. I'm not your bank, and I'm certainly not your host. Alexa, please, Camilla whimpered, realizing the gravity of the situation as Chad took a distinct step away from her. Chad's parents are coming. You have to. Do you have a key? Can we just use the kitchen? Please, I'll pay you. Pay me? I laughed. With what money, Camilla? The money you owe me from the loan 3 years ago, or the money you don't have because you're unemployed? Chad looked at Camilla. Unemployed? You said you were a consultant. I am, Camilla wailed. She's a consultant in spending other people's money, I corrected. Goodbye, everyone. Enjoy the leftovers, or don't. I really don't care. I moved to hang up, but I heard one last thing before the connection cut. It was Chad's voice. You lied to me about everything. And then, the beautiful sound of a car door slamming. I didn't watch the rest of the feed. I didn't need to. The image of Camilla's crumbling facade was enough to sustain me for a lifetime. I turned off the TV and ordered sushi. The fallout was swift and catastrophic. According to a flurry of texts from Aunt Joy, who was the only person I answered, the Thanksgiving dinner happened in the parking lot of a Cracker Barrel because everywhere else was booked. Chad had broken up with Camilla right there on the porch, gotten back in his Mercedes, and driven off, leaving her stranded with our parents. Camilla had a meltdown in the Cracker Barrel gift shop. Bella and Henry tried to barrage me with calls for a week. They alternated between rage, "You are dead to us," and pathetic wheedling, "We're family, how can you leave us with nothing?" I blocked them, but I wasn't done. A week after Thanksgiving, I sent a certified letter to Camilla's apartment, which I knew my parents were paying for. It was a formal demand letter for the $5,000 she owed me, plus interest, attached to the promissory note I had saved. I didn't need the money. I had the proceeds from the house sitting in a high-yield account, generating more interest in a month than Camilla made in a year. But it was about the principle. It was about closing the loop. She didn't pay, of course, but the threat of small claims court was enough to make my father cash out part of his 401k to silence me. When the check arrived, I donated every cent of it to a charity that helps young women gain financial literacy and independence. I put the donation in Camilla's name and mailed her the receipt. The real reconciliation, however, came from an unexpected source. It was Christmas Eve. I was still in Chicago, walking through the Christkindl market, drinking mulled wine and feeling the cold wind on my face. I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. My phone rang. It was Aunt Joy. I hesitated, then answered, "Hi, Aunt Joy." "Merry Christmas, Alexa," she said. Her voice was warm, lacking the frantic edge that usually accompanied calls from my mother. "Merry Christmas," I said, bracing myself for a guilt trip. "If you're calling to tell me to call Mom." "I'm not," Joy cut in gently. "I'm calling to tell you. Good for you." I stopped walking. "What?" "I've watched them treat you like the help for 30 years, Joy said. "I watched them ignore your birthday. I watched them volunteer your house. I never said anything because, well, because it's easier to stay quiet in this family. And I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you sooner." I felt a lump form in my throat, hot and tight. "Thanks, Aunt Joy." When we pulled up to that empty house, she laughed softly, and I saw the look on Camilla's face. Honestly, Alexa, it was the best Thanksgiving I've had in years. You have backbone, kid. Don't let them break it. "I won't," I whispered. "Good, now I'm sending you a care package. It has my gluten-free stuffing recipe, since I know you actually liked it, even if you didn't have to eat it." We talked for an hour. It wasn't a grand reunion with the people who had hurt me. It was something better. It was the realization that family isn't just blood, it's the people who see you, really see you. I hung up the phone and looked up at the city lights, reflecting in the Chicago River. I had lost a house, I had lost a sister, I had lost parents. But looking at my reflection in the dark water, calm, solvent, and free, I knew I had made a profit.